Today's topic is inhibition at the synapse. Four type of inhibition seen in central nervous system: postsynaptic inhibition, presynaptic inhibition, feedback inhibition, and feed forward inhibition. Now details. Postsynaptic inhibition occurs by following mechanism: direct postsynaptic inhibition by development of IPSP, inhibitory postsynaptic potential. So first we should know how IPSP is produced. As we know that when there is a release of inhibitory neurotransmitter, for example glycine and GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid, release from presynaptic terminal, they binds with postsynaptic membrane on the receptor protein, and next step is there is a opening of channels, either potassium channel or chloride channels. So when there is opening of potassium channel, there is a potassium efflux occurs. Efflux means potassium goes outside, from inside to outside the membrane. And when chloride channels are open, there is a entry of chloride inside the membrane, so negativity is again increased. So in this condition, either potassium or chloride channel opening, there is a development of hyperpolarization, and hyperpolarization leads to inhibitory postsynaptic potential. So this is the mechanism for postsynaptic inhibition. Now another thing, postsynaptic inhibition without development of IPSP. Here there is no development of inhibitory postsynaptic potential. For example, in some neuron, concentration differences for potassium and chloride are such that nernst potential of this ion are equal to resting membrane potential of the neuron. Therefore, even if either potassium or chloride channels are open, there is no net transfer of ions in either direction, and no IPSP can develop. But when neuron is excited through other synapse, it causes inflow of sodium ions. Rapid flux of potassium and chloride ions would nullify IPSP produce. So greater influx of sodium is required to overcome this condition. This tendency of potassium or chloride ions to maintain potential to resting membrane potential level masks the effect of sodium current flow by excitatory synapse, thus causing inhibition. So this is the mechanism without development of IPSP. In this condition also there is a inhibition occurs. Now postsynaptic inhibition due to refractory period. So during refractory period there is no response. So what is refractory period? Refractory period refers to the period following action potential, during which nerve fiber either does not respond or respond subnormally to a stimulus of threshold intensity or greater than threshold intensity. So in this condition also there is a postsynaptic inhibition. Now presynaptic inhibition, also known as indirect inhibition, as IPSP is not produced. The excitability of postsynaptic cell is not diminished. Presynaptic inhibition occurs because of failure of release of excitatory neurotransmitter substance from presynaptic axon terminal. So here presynaptic inhibition produced by inhibitory neuron C. So you can see here this is inhibitory neuron C, which synapse with presynaptic axon terminal A. Okay. So now just see the observation in this figure. Figure 1 shows normal excitatory neurotransmitter release by presynaptic terminal A. Okay, so this is normal thing, normal amount of presynaptic neurotransmitter. Okay. Now here in figure 2 there is a reduced amount of neurotransmitter substance released by presynaptic terminal A. It is because of effect of inhibitory neuron C on neuron A. Okay. So what are the mechanism by which this inhibitory neuron C decreases release of neurotransmitter from neuron A? So let us see mechanism by which presynaptic release of neurotransmitter is decreased. So there is a certain mechanism by opening chloride channels of presynaptic terminal, and another mechanism is by activation of G protein. And further, G protein cause opening of potassium channel, or it directly blocks the calcium channel. So first mechanism by opening chloride channels of presynaptic terminal. The inhibitory neuron releases inhibitory neurotransmitter gamma aminobutyric acid and binds to GABA gated chloride channel on presynaptic neuron terminal. It increases the chloride permeability. It leads to hyperpolarization of presynaptic axon terminal. So when action potential arrives at presynaptic terminal, size of action potential is reduced, and because of increased chloride conductions. And another thing, due to smaller size of action potential, less calcium enters into the nerve terminal and cause amount of excited neurotransmitter release markedly decrease. So in this figure you can see here, this is inhibitory neuron C. It releases inhibitory neurotransmitter gamma aminobutyric acid, binds with GABA gated chloride channels, so it increases the chloride entry inside the presynaptic terminal. Okay, so there is a hyperpolarization of presynaptic membrane. So when action potential arrives, there is a decreased size of action potential because of this hyperpolarization. So ultimately it leads to decreased entry of calcium inside the presynaptic terminal. And as we know that if there is a decreased amount of calcium, all this process of release of neurotransmitter will decrease. So ultimately there is a decreased amount of neurotransmitter substances. So increased chloride permeability result in hyperpolarization of presynaptic axon terminal, and when action potential arrives at the presynaptic terminal, size of action potential is reduced because of increased chloride conductions, and because of smaller size of action potential, less calcium enters into the nerve terminal, and thus amount of excited neurotransmitter release is markedly decreased. Now another mechanism is by activation of G protein. When inhibitory neurotransmitter GABA released from the inhibitory neuron binds to a receptor called GABA receptor, it activates the G protein. And the G protein aids in reducing the amount of excited neurotransmitter released from presynaptic terminal by two ways. It opens potassium channels, and another mechanism is it directly blocks calcium channel. So first we discuss opening of calcium channels. So when G protein may open potassium channel, that reduces the size of action potential reaching the nerve terminal by hyperpolarizing the presynaptic nerve terminal. As we know that potassium efflux occurs when there is an opening of potassium channel. So potassium goes outside from presynaptic terminal to extracellular fluid. So ultimately there is a hyperpolarization because of increased negativity inside the membrane. So in this figure you can see here, so this is inhibitory neuron, a release of inhibitory neurotransmitter GABA binds with G protein, and G protein goes opening of potassium channel, so potassium goes outside, so increased negativity inside the membrane, so it leads to again hyperpolarization. And if hyperpolarization is there, there is a decreased size of action potential, and due to this decreased size of action potential, less amount of calcium channels are open, so calcium influx will decrease. So ultimately there is a decreased amount of neurotransmitter release. So this is the mechanism. Second mechanism of G protein, it directly blocks calcium channel. Okay, so here as we know that if there is a directly blocking of calcium channel, then what happens? There is no entry of calcium inside the membrane. So inside the cytoplasm of presynaptic membrane, so terminal. So ultimately there is a decreased release of neurotransmitter substances. Now feedback inhibition. It is also known as a Renshaw cell inhibition. It occurs in spinal alpha motor neuron through inhibitory interneuron. In feedback or recurrent inhibition, neuron inhibits those very neurons that excite it. In other words, neuron is inhibited by its own output. In this way, firing of action potential by motor neuron of spinal cord is followed by phase of hyperpolarization of not only the same neuron but also many other in neighborhood. So it is basically post-synaptic inhibition, but it is classified separately because inhibitor Renshaw cell are activated by collateral of ventral horn cell rather than afferent neuron. So now this is ventral horn of spinal cord. In the spinal cord, it is a ventral horn. It is part of gray matter. So this is white matter and it is gray matter. Ventral horn, this is dorsal horn. So now this afferent neuron, it first excites the alpha motor neuron which is present in ventral horn. Okay. So now you can see here this alpha motor neuron when excited, it excites a Renshaw cell, okay, which is inhibitory interneuron. Okay, so here there is a excitation of Renshaw cell. So again, as we know that it is a inhibitory neuron, so it releases inhibitory neurotransmitter and cause inhibition of alpha motor neuron. Okay, alpha motor neuron. And so it cause inhibition of alpha motor neuron here. So this is known as a Renshaw cell inhibition. Feed forward inhibition. It is seen in cerebellum. In this type of inhibition, neuron is connected through two pathways. One is excitatory and another is inhibitory. Example, in cerebellum, granular cell excite Purkinje cell, which is soon inhibited by the Baskel cell, which in turn was excited by the granule. So this type of arrangement in cerebellum limits the duration of excitation produced by any given afferent volley. For example, allows a brief and precisely timed excitation. So in this figure you can see here, this is granular cell. So when it is excited by Mosey fiber, it excites both basket cell as well as Purkinje cell. But here you can see basket cell when excited, it inhibits the Purkinje cell. Okay. So this type of inhibition is known as a feed forward inhibition. Now what is the significance of cyanotic inhibition? Why this inhibition is required? So in central nervous system, it offers type of restriction over neurons and muscle to react properly and appropriately. Thus, it helps to select exact number of impulses and to omit or block the excess one. So this is the purpose of cyanotic inhibition. Thank you.